Hi, my name is Ovik, and I'll be talking about the portfolio. For our portfolio, we summarized the beginning of the literature review and our introduction. Some key takeaways was that institutionalized racism can actually be found in many social institutes across America. And throughout history, like uh, throughout history, constantly there has always been institutional racism, and there continues to be institutional racism, and arguably it's growing stronger. Uh, the legacy of slavery and other racist actions that live through the ways in which societal institutions like laws, policies, and practices systemically discriminate against a group of individuals, mainly due to their race. Now we can see examples of these in our healthcare system, our educational system, and our judicial systems, and we must take steps to combat this. So some main points that we had was that we can all learn from our country's mistakes as a whole, and we should. People of color receive lower quality health care, along with a higher rate of being diagnosed with chronic disease. And white people are healthier than people of color. This shows an obvious flaw in our healthcare system. Students of color are faced with educational barriers such as low quality schools, less resources, and less advanced coursework, including heavy disciplinary action. Schools in poorer neighborhoods typically don't have the same quality education as, let's say, Burbank High School because of funding. So I believe that we should incorporate mutual funding to all schools, public schools. Studies show that officers use racial profiling to target individuals as suspicious of a crime. So that means that whether the individual is, if the individual is black, they're more likely to be targeted as a suspect for a crime they probably did not commit. And more physical force is used against people of color. White people receive less punishment for the same crimes that people of color commit. And this is including being tried and just the overall justice system. So for our historical overview, we said that racism has been increasing little by little, although it may not seem like, although we advertise ourselves as an inclusive society. One example of this is the death of George Floyd, and that shows institutional racism in our police force because it was the use of excessive force, and they ultimately killed him. And many protested and rioted for a few months. However, this wasn't the first time, and it shows that history just repeats itself, as in 1992 there were the Rodney King riots, which ultimately had a greater outcome, like a more negative outcome than the George Floyd incident. And unless we learn from this, unless we look at it and try to change our police system, it will keep repeating itself. Additionally, in our judicial system, we're supposed to give fair trials to everyone, but that is not the case. African Americans see much higher sentences for lesser crimes, and that's overall not fair. It needs to be changed. Institutional racism repeats itself along with all history. The best way not to repeat a mistake is to study and learn from it. I think that we should learn from our past mistakes and not repeat them to learn from them again. So we should prevent the problem before it happens. One way we can do that is by changing our education system. We should make sure that schools receive adequate funding to create a better environment for their students. We should also involve coursework that shows troubles of life and how to deal with them, especially for kids who don't have access to those resources. And we must provide equal punishment. Overall, justice should be blind, and we should focus on the crime, not the individual. Additionally, we must set up a proper education for our police force on how to deal with different races and we must put ourselves through a trial, basically. Uh, and it is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of people. But if we start to slowly change, then we can better ourselves and help the people around us. So, thank you.